Welcome to Tejedoraknits. My name is Gladys. I am a knitter based out of Southern Nevada here in the United States. And welcome to my little knitting corner of the internet where we like to talk about everything related to fiber arts. So today I wanted to chat about everything that has been on and off of my needles over the past 3 weeks. So I have a few finished objects. This is the third podcast that I have 3 finished objects to talk about. So that was a good streak, but unfortunately we'll probably not be continuing. I have a lot of brand new whips on the needles. I don't have any yarn acquisitions, but I do have a special acquisition to talk about as well. So let's get right into it. If you enjoy knitting content, don't forget to hit the subscribe button so that you can follow along and be a part of this little community. And if you are enjoying the video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. A little quick mention to what I am wearing. This is my Metropolitan Pullover by Tori. I finished it maybe pretty recently, about a month ago, I'd say. And it has been really comfortable to wear. This is worked up in a strand of fingering weight variegated mystery yarn from Witchfire Fibers, held with a strand of Suri from Lana Grossa. It is their Seta Suri in the color Nougat. So highly recommend the pattern, and the yarn's worked up beautifully. So I think this might be the last full sweater weekend that we have. We had a bit of a cold snap. Last time I filmed a podcast, I was wearing a t-shirt because it was very warm. So we had a cold snap. It was actually probably some of the coldest days we had this season, but it is coming to an end. And next week we're going to be in the mid 70s. So I think that was the last one. I think we are properly almost done with winter now, especially now that, February is coming up to a wrap. So yeah, I think it's going to be time to embrace spring and start to get into some lighter knits. I have been really enjoying the last little bit of winter knitting. I know as the daylight gets longer, I will be spending more time outdoors and doing other activities, so probably not as much knitting time. And I'm already planning ahead for summer. My summer is going to be absolutely bonkers, super, super busy, and lots of travel that I wasn't necessarily anticipating. So I'm really enjoying these last calm weeks with knitting before life starts to pick up again. So with all of that said, I have 3 finished objects, like I mentioned. Let's talk about the first one, which is another little baby set. So I finished up the baby Aosta sweater. This is a pattern from the Knit Purl Girl, and I made a little hat to go with it. This is the Simply Hemmed hat by Purl Soho. So since I have the hat here, it's super simple. I made the toddler size because the sweater is in a 12-month size. So it's just stockinette, and then it does have a little folded over knit edge, which I think is really nice. So nothing fancy about this hat, just super simple. It is a free pattern. They are both worked up obviously in the same yarn, which is Hobbi Happy Place. This is from their original launch back in 24, I think. This is the oldest bit of yarn in my stash, and I still have some left over. It just never seems to end. But it is a 50-50 blend of cotton and superwash merino. So it is machine washable. I made just like a little quick care tag for the recipient. So I made the 12-month size, and I put like the washing instructions in there. This is done in Andalusian stitch, so you just alternate a row of knit purls in between a couple rows of plain stockinette. It does have like an opening flap here with the buttons. I just use, these are like spare buttons that come in clothing that I set aside. I did not have 3 matching ones, so the middle one is a little bit of a contrast button, which I think is perfectly fine. Another thing to note about this pattern, it actually doesn't have short rows. So this is not the first time I've made the baby Aosta. I already own the pattern, and I had made it for, another friend's baby before I had started the podcast. So a while back, I was a brand new beginner. So Sophie's patterns are super beginner friendly because they are very wordy. I don't necessarily need all that wording now, but it is what it is. They're still good patterns. But I did notice I made the Baby Loudon, I think it was. I finished that in the last podcast. It's a newer one of Sophie's kid patterns, and that one does have short rows. So I do wish that this would have had short rows, but I just didn't pay enough attention when I was making it to add them in myself. But either way, I think the fit should be perfectly fine. This baby is due mid-March or end of March, I think. So I just decided to just size up so that way they can wear it in the next winter because they probably won't get much use out of it with our springs here. So a couple more stats. Of course, this worked up very quickly. Baby knits generally for me do. I finished this in 15 days from January 19th to February 2nd. And total, I weighed these both together, used up 170 grams of yarn. So like I said, I still have more of this yarn, but a lot less. So I'm slowly trying to like work all of that yarn out. I still have enough between my different Happy Place scraps to make another blue baby set if need be. Cost for this, I think the yarn cost me about $14 because it's super, my oldest ones, I didn't have all the receipts saved, so I'm not sure if that's certain. And then some of the yarn was frogged from a different project. So I'm just going to go for $14. And this pattern was free. This pattern I already owned. So all in all, a super affordable gift project, I guess. So I'll be getting this over to my friend this next week. So that was the first finished object. The second finished object is the Prospect Tee by Tori. I'll film some B-roll so that way you guys can see the proper length. This, as I mentioned, it's a test knit, so the pattern has not yet been released. It should be released, I'm believing, end of March, give or take. The test knit rule finishes up in the middle of March. So my Prospect Tee, I test knit the size 1. However, my gauge ended up loosening up. I sometimes think I get the importance of gauge swatching, but gauge swatches never tell you the full story. So I don't think I've ever had a single gauge swatch unless you're making like a massive gauge swatch, which who wants to do that? And who has the yarn and time to just do a massive square and then, I don't know. But anyways, gauge swatches never tell me the truth. So I'm learning to kind of interpret my gauge swatches and know that they will be, like my stitches will be bigger in a full project as opposed to a swatch. So in the end, mine is a little bit bigger than the pattern recommendation. I did size down my needle sizes twice. So the recommended needle size is 3.5 millimeters. I knit this up on a 3 millimeter needle. The yarn that I used is from Terrapin Fiberworks. This is their Harbor fingering, which is a 60% cotton, 40% linen blend in a fingering weight. And the color is Marion berry. So it is this beautiful, beautiful, like wineish kind of berry, not quite fuchsia. This is definitely one of my colors. I think this looks absolutely perfect with my skin tone. A couple of details of the pattern. It is a drop shoulder. Well, I'll see if I can show you details on the back, but it is a drop shoulder. However, you don't really knit much for the sleeves. You kind of just do a bit of like ribbing finishing here. It has this beautiful little like knit and purl texture. You actually don't purl too much, just given the way that the stitch pattern is set up. I tried to do my best to knit to pattern, which kind of reminds me why I don't test knit very much, because I always end up making lots of modifications to my patterns, whether I realize it or not. So one of the things is that to get my stitch pattern to align when I joined in the round, my yoke ended up being almost a full inch longer than recommended. So what I had to do, my sleeve opening, or like my cuff edging thing for the sleeve, I ended up following the stitch count for a size 2 because my sleeve opening was measuring for a 2 instead of a 1 because it was a little bit longer. All in all, I think that worked out perfectly well. No issues on my side. Another detail is I wanted to add in a little bit of bust shaping, but I didn't want to do a ton because I didn't want it to throw off the stitch pattern. So I just added like a couple of rows. I think it's like right here in this one, you might be able to notice it's slightly wider than the other stripes. I think I just added like 2 or 3 short rows just to add a smidge of extra length. And then the last detail that I added, I did about 2 sets of waist shaping right around here, just enough so that it doesn't like flare out, because I really don't like it when tops with positive ease flare out, because with my hips and everything, I just don't like how it looks. So just enough so that it doesn't flare. And I think all of that together worked out really well. I tried to make sure that mine is nice and long, so even if I lift my arms, it doesn't look crazy, so that way I can wear it comfortably to the office without, you know, burying my midriff, because I'm not supposed to do that. So all in all, I really enjoyed it. I think the fit is really nice. Even if you don't make those tiny little modifications that I did, I still think that the fit is nice. Pattern is super clear and easy to understand, so I would definitely recommend it. A couple more details. I finished this one super quickly, 18 days from January 28th to February 14th. I finished this on Valentine's Day. Not that I really celebrate Valentine's Day, you know, but anyways. Working with plant fibers. So I have this tendency of like, I power through the yoke of my garments because it's just exciting and new, and you'll see that in another cast on that I have. So I did the same with this one, but as much as I try, I still sometimes forget that I have to be careful with plant fibers. So I did start to get achy hands. So after I did the yoke, I told myself that I was only going to work on this for 30 minutes a day, maybe 40, 45, but only for that designated slot for the day. And then I had to work on other projects to help with my hands and take care of my hands, and lots of hand massages and hand balms and things like that. So in the end, it worked out fine, but I've noticed that for my hand health, it's really good for me to have a variety of different projects, yarn thicknesses, needle sizes, just because I get my pain like right around the joints of my hand here. So that's just something that I found is really helpful for me. So yeah, this one does give achy hands, even though I'm very cognizant of having a loose tension, and generally speaking, I am more of a loose knitter on the spectrum of things. So those are my little details. My finished bust circumference is 36 inches. It did not change with blocking. The pattern recommendation for size 1 is 34. So I did end up a little bit bigger. So this is about, how much did I say? 3 inches of positive ease based off of my upper bust. So I'm actually really excited to wear this. I remember when I was trying it on for the first time, I was like, oh, I'm excited for warm weather, which that is huge for me because I don't like summer. The same way that a lot of people get winter seasonal depression, I get summer heat depression. And it's tied directly to a couple of medical issues that I have that have gotten a lot better. I found really good doctors and did the right surgeries and treatments and things like that. So the past year was my first summer that I was kind of pain-free and kind of, you know, able to enjoy summer a little bit more. But there's still a lot of like medical trauma associated with summer and just misery and discomfort and things like that. So I'm still trying to reprogram my brain that I'm like, okay, I'm in a good space. My body's in a good space to where I can learn to enjoy summer again. So yeah, this was a nice thing. I have something to look forward to. I'm trying to find these little pockets of joy to look forward to the summer and not dread it as much. And I'll be out of the city for a lot of the summer, so that'll be really helpful. Anyways, that was kind of off topic, but that's a glimpse of the person behind the knitting, I guess. So anyways, I'm trying to look forward to summer because that's the main season that we have here in Las Vegas. So anyways, I really enjoy this. You know what? I think I'm going to keep this on for the rest of the video. It feels really nice right now, so we're going with it. And my last little finished object, I am so proud of this. This is the tiniest project of the 3, but it's probably the one I might be the most proud of because it required so much perseverance and determination to finish this thing. So I finished up my Anthology knits this is a pattern from Alicia Plummer, and these I made in scrap yarn. So these are leftovers from a tank that I made. This is Ruby and Rose's Soft Rose, I think it's called. It's a sock in 8515, I think, superwash merino nylon. Color is Glow Up from the Downton Abbey collection, and they are finally done. The camera really struggles to pick up this color, so hopefully it's doing it somewhat justice. So these were a saga because they were a lot of work, because they have the like, I don't know if it's seed or moss. It has like this little texture stitch down here. It has these like knit below chains, and it has these tight little S cables. And then you have to work increases over here for the gusset as well. So there was just a lot of things to keep track of. It's one of those that I just personally had to print out the chart So that way it's just my brain, it was just easier to jump in and out of this project. I have had these on the needle since the very beginning of December. I think I cast them on December 2nd. I didn't finish these until February 17th. And that's only because I got so sick of having them in my whip pile that I was just like, I'm going to do this. I took them as my lunchtime project for a couple of days and just powered through. Once I get into the groove, they're enjoyable. But getting into that groove is where I was really struggling. But I'm so happy that I finished these. These are beautiful. I got to use them this week when it was cold, so it's really nice. I really like them. If I were to do them again, the one thing that I would change is that I would do, instead of the texture panels that it has, I would just do stockinette. I feel like that tiny little change would make things so much easier. Just having the knit below chains and the cables, I think that's enough for me. But anyways, I'm so glad that I did them. These were so lightweight. I only used 32 grams of yarn. So I think I had maybe like 60 or 70 grams, I think, of leftovers. And I only went through 30 of them. I thought I was good. I kind of wanted to use more. So I still have more leftovers to use up. But anyways, there's that. I made the smallest size because I have very small wrists and hands for my size. I'm not a petite person, but for whatever reason, my hands are very narrow and my feet are very narrow. So socks and mitts and things like that, I have to make them a lot smaller than I would proportionally for my body. Cost super duper affordable. The yarn was essentially free because they were scraps. The pattern I got at one of her sales, I think. So I think it was like 50% off. So I only paid $3.50 for the pattern. So that was the total cost for this project. So all in all, I'm super happy that they're done. And I'm definitely going to make more fingerless mitts because I really like them and wear them. But I do like to try new patterns. So those are my 3 finished objects. I have how many whips? 1, 2, 3, 4 whips and a swatch to talk about. So let's move on over to those. The first whip is my only returning whip. The rest of them are new, I think. I always forget which ones are new and which ones aren't. But here is my caterpillar cardigan for my niece. It is working up so well. This is so cute. Really, the only reason why this isn't done is because I'm waiting on the buttons to come in before doing the second button band. So this is the Hungry Caterpillar cardigan by Hennie that I'm making for my niece in the size 1 to 2 years, I think. She's only 5 months, almost 6 months, but she's big, so she needs big things. So here is the caterpillar that I made with duplicate stitch. Super cute. I finished, it has the collar. The pattern recommends a 1x1 button band, but I really wanted to try a double knit. I figured better to practice them on a kid's garment than on my own. And I think it turned out really well. It took me a minute to figure it out, but in the end, I think I got it right. I think I used a 3 out of every 4 stitches pickup rate just because it sounded good. I'd be a terrible pattern designer because I just go off of the vibes. I was like, yeah, I know I can do the math. I don't mind math. I'm pretty good at math. But when it comes to knitting, I was just like, that's not the side of my brain I want to be tapping into right now. So I just went off of the vibes and it worked. I think it worked well. It has this little leaf pocket that you knit separately and just seam it on. So I did that. And I did the little sleeves. They come in stripes. So I really like that I've been able to get through some good scraps. I'm trying to be cognizant of my scraps and using them up where I can instead of letting them accumulate and accumulate and accumulate. So I still have more green scraps, but I got through some of them. So I made the 2 little matching sleeves with the little red cuff over here. So like I said, all that's left is the other little button band. I have the buttons on the way. They should arrive in a couple of days. They're going to be coming in with my 52 weeks of sweater book, which I think I should do a book review video about. I'm very excited for that. But yeah, they are red and white buttons, which I think just matched perfectly. And just, this takes the win for the most whimsical and adorable little fun project. I mean, this has been making me so happy. So 10 out of 10, no, 12 out of 10. This has been such a good experience. So yeah, that's what I have to say about this. This will definitely be done at the next podcast. As soon as those buttons come in, I will get this the last little button band on and call this a wrap. The purpose of this project, of course, just because it's cute, but also I will be going to New York with my siblings in April. So this is going to be something that my niece will wear in New York, which will be super cute because I'm assuming it'll still be sweater weather over there. I mean, New Yorkers can probably tell you better than I can. I have never been to the northwest of the country. So yeah, that'll be really fun. And talking about New York, I figured why not make myself a sweater to wear to New York? So that is exactly what I decided to do. And I decided to use the Matcha jumper. So to make the Matcha jumper. So this is everything that I have so far. So first off, the yarn is incredible. This is from Sunday Fiber Co. This is their Corriewool base, which is 100% Corriedale wool. It is a woolen spun 2-ply in a sport weight. And this is the loftiest, crispest wool that I have worked with maybe ever. The yardage is wild. So it has 450 meters, which is like, what, 490 something yards per 100 grams. And I mean, I have 3 balls of these, but these, after all of this work, I still have so much of these 2 balls. I am alternating skeins that I think I'll barely have to crack into the 3rd ball, if at all. I don't know. Let's see. But this yarn is going so far. So the Matcha jumper is a pattern by Vert knit by Ines. And the original pattern recommendation for the yarn is a light fingering with a fluff or like a mohair at a gauge of 22 stitches on 3.5 millimeter needles. This is a sport weight. It could pass as a fingering weight depending on what you're doing. You know, if I had to compare this to commercial yarn, I have some Bichi Bouche Le Petit Lambs wool, and I think it's pretty similar to this, honestly, and it feels quite similar. I have not worked up that yarn quite yet, but I was kind of wondering how off gauge I was going to be with this. So I originally swatched with 3.25 millimeter needles just to see how, you know, the yarn would behave. And I tried to do a bigger swatch so that way it would be somewhat accurate. And I got, after blocking, I got a gauge of 20 stitches. The fabric was a little bit open, so I figured I do want to go down, and my gauge was still bigger than a DK weight. So I decided to go down to 3 millimeter needles. 3 millimeter needles seems to be like my sweet spot for whatever reason. I have another swatch going on 3 millimeter needles right now. So I really didn't want to do another swatch. I was like, I'm just going to go ahead and cast on for 3 millimeter needles. I decided to size down to a size 1 because I wanted a little bit less ease. My recommended size is a 2, which would give me 5 inches of positive ease of the upper bust, and a size 1 would have given me 3 inches. So I prefer the 3 inches, and I am going to add in bust darts, like horizontal bust shaping. She does have instructions for that in the pattern, but it's the exact same way that I've calculated them for my previous projects. So, but I think that's really helpful. I'm glad that she has that in there. So the last time I checked my gauge, and this is pre-blocking, I think I was at 22.5 or 23 inches. So I think after blocking, I think I'm going to be pretty spot on, which is crazy. And even my row gauge is not far off. When I checked, I think it was, the pattern is 30 and I have 28, or maybe it's in reverse, something like that. But it was still pretty close given that my row gauge is usually really far off, because I wanted to see if I needed to make any modifications before splitting for sleeves, which is exactly where I am at right now. I am ready to split for sleeves. This has a really cool, interesting shaping. I don't even know what this would be called. Is this, I would say maybe like a contiguous saddle shoulder, maybe, because you don't knit that, you knit, hi. You knit most of it. Sorry, I had to do that. You knit most of it in the round. You just do a little smidge of shaping back and forth and some short rows before you connect it in the round. And you have to work different increased rows at different rates. So it's definitely something that you have to pay attention. And I kind of like tally what row I'm on and things like that. And I have markers just in case I forget to tally them so I can count the right spots. Anyways, so even if it's a stockinette, you do have to pay a bit of attention. I'm assuming, you know, now that I'm going to split for sleeves, the rest should be pretty straightforward. This is just a lot of stitching, which that's why I started it now, because again, I know I power through the yoke, and then after that, I'm kind of like, So I know the rest of it's going to move a lot slower, especially the sleeves. Sleeves are freaking eternal. Hopefully these won't be so bad because I have, you know, knit a good part of the sleeves. So I guess it's working up pretty similar to a raglan right now where I'll put all these stitches on hold. So all in all, I'm really liking how it's working up. I am alternating skeins, and these skeins have like the slightest bit of heathering. I hope you can see that, but they are so beautiful. So beautiful. I think that it's not like an itchy wool, but again, I'm not particularly sensitive to wools anymore at this point. I've really built up my wool resistance, but I am thinking because the collar is like a double folded on the inside, I do have some fingering weight baby yak, which is like super soft. And I think I might put that on the inside just to be safe. It is a dark chocolate color, so I'm hoping that it won't peek through too much. I'm going to give that a shot and see how that goes. But yeah, that's where this one is. It will definitely not be done by the next podcast. But if I need it for the end of April, I think that'll be super comfortable. I'll probably be finishing it maybe end of March if I had to guess, beginning of April at most. I'm trying not to have too many whips on the needles, even though I love having a lot of projects. I'm really feeling the urge to have more projects on the needles right now. But anyways, that is what I have to say about my Matcha jumper. I'm so happy that I finally got around to casting it on. My last winter project, or I guess project that was on my winter plans, was a scarf with this Witchfire Fibers Charmed, I think Charmed is the colorway, yarn combo, which was natural fingering and classic Suri. It's a dream to work up with. I've worked with this combo in the past. So I originally tried the Torn Scarf by Rebecca Clow. It wasn't clicking. I didn't like it. I gave up. So I cast on the Fern Field Wrap by Lisa Haynes. Mine is more like a scarf versus a wrap. So you can see here, this is where it starts to narrow. So I did one big repeat, which is like 80 rows. And to do the next repeat, I think was like another 70-ish rows. I wasn't going to have enough yarn. So I just did straight repeats up until I reached, the increase part took me 16 grams. So I did straight repeats until I reached 17 grams because I'm not playing yarn chicken with this one. And I just started decreasing last night when I was watching some TV. So I am like 2/3 of the way through with this one. And I know it's going to look beautiful once it's blocked. It has, these are like itty bitty 1x1 cables, like these columns here. And then it has like a fern lacy motif, pretty common motif, but I think the instructions are really good. The charts are super clear. I love a good chart. And I love when the chart has the increases and decreases included in there. So I don't have to keep track of two separate things. This has been such a nice project. This is 4mm. This is on 4mm needles. Again, you can see I'm getting close. So this one will definitely be done by the next podcast update. So that and my Hungry Caterpillar are probably going to be my two finished objects next time. I have a fun little sock on the needles. I'm so happy to finally have another sock. And this is not very portable, but this, I put the little balls inside the cone. This is my first little Hawick sock. So cute. This is my second sock pattern that I am making from my 52 Weeks of Sock Volume 2 from Lina Publishing. And this is a little like tweed motif. I don't think I pronounced it right, but Hawick. It's a town in Scotland, I believe, where it's assumed that tweed was invented. So this is like a tweed little pattern repeat. This is so adorable, you guys. The yarns, the minis are from Super Glow. They are the tweed sock minis. I got these at Flock last year. I don't have color names, but this is like a very grapefruit pink and this is bright neon yellow. Talking about Flock, they released their new logo and my thoughts. At first glance, I was like, it's beautiful. It was really giving me FOMO because I will not be going this year. But then after a couple seconds, I was like, oh no, that logo was starting to hurt my eyes and my head. I'm very prone to migraines. So part of me was like, I'm so glad I'm not going because seeing that logo on like merch and like everywhere, I would have a massive migraine by the end of the day. Just like the way, I'm not going to pop it up here because again, it's going to hurt. I don't want it to cause headaches like it's causing me. But the colors, the way that the stripes are made, again, it's beautiful, but something about it just gives me that photosensitivity that just, I can't do it. I'm sure that I'm not the only one who's experiencing that. I know somebody, I think, of course, it was Size Inclusive Collective. She's like, this logo can be an issue for a lot of people. I'm one of those people. So anyways, that isn't, again, neither here nor there. I'm a bit rambly today, which is unusual. But anyways, back to this. This is Retrosaria Mondim. Their sock yarn. I have a big cone of this. So yeah, I did pair it with some undyed mohair for the bottom of the foot just to give it that super strength. And the toe is worked in size 0 needles, which I have flexi flips that I tried out for that. I think I have them. Yes, they are right here. I have my flexi flips in a size 0 because I usually have knit my socks in a size 1, but again, I have very narrow feet and I usually make a 57 stitch sock, but even then, sometimes they stretch out. So I figured I really wanted to try a classic 64 stitch sock on 0s because also a lot of sock patterns don't come in that 57 stitch size. So I'm trying to, you know, make it work for myself. And I love the flexi flips. I really want to get more of them. But anyways, the pattern does recommend going to a size 1 for the tweed. Just because it's a slip stitch mosaic, it does have a tendency of tightening up. So I decided to follow the pattern. And so far they are fitting against my foot pretty well. So I'm hopeful that these won't stretch out as much as my other socks. And you do zeros. A 0 on the fingering plus a mohair was tough on the hands. That was tough. That was so tight. But that's what I'm saying. I think these are going to be indestructible, which I think will be worth it. So you do the zeros for the heel and the toe. And then I'm not sure about the ribbing. We'll see. But yeah, it makes me so happy because the colors are adorable. This works up so slowly, but I'm just doing like maybe 1 or 2 repeats a day, and slowly but surely, eventually I will have a sock. So love that one. And then I have a swatch. I think that's it. Yeah, just a swatch to show you guys. The little swatch that I have here is for my Guilloche. Apologies for my terrible pronunciation. I don't know if it's like, I think it's a French word. And French is one of the languages that I struggle a lot with. So this is it's not quite done yet, but this is my swatch for the Guilloche Pullover by Ailbiona McLochlainn. I have been really inspired lately by Ailbiona's pattern and her newsletter. I subscribe to her newsletter, and she just has like the topics that she covers in her newsletter about like pattern complexity and being a pattern designer versus a knitting influencer, how different they are. I'm feeling really inspired to do an Ailbiona McLochlainn roundup. I think I will do that. But anyways, this is for her Guilloche Pullover Light. The yarn is Santolina by Purl Soho, which is a plant yarn. I don't have the tag with me, but it's a blend of cotton, hemp, and viscose bamboo situation. This one doesn't feel like dry and tight like most plant yarns. I think it does feel pretty elastic, which I'm glad to hear that because I originally, Knit Cheek, I think, is the one who mentioned she made like a full long sleeve sweater with this. She does mention that it has a lot more elasticity than most plant fibers. So I'm really hopeful because this is going to be a labor of love. This little like cable-y honeycomb situation on like a long sleeve. It's only 1 strand. And this is for my sister, because it is time that she gets her own pullover. I just haven't cast on quite yet because I'm still waiting on getting some measurements for her to figure out what size. I think I'll maybe make either the 3 or the 4, depending on, you know, what we get. But yeah, this is for her birthday, which is in April, but it's not going to be done in April. I doubt it. But she's okay with that. So I'm hoping that this will be done, hopefully by like June, maybe. This will be cast on pretty soon, also on 3mm needles. So I really, really prefer my wooden needles, but I didn't want to have to wait until my Matcha jumper was done before casting this on. So these are my chail glues, which are fine, but I just like the experience of wooden needles. Okay, I think those are all the updates on the whips. No yarn acquisitions, which is a good thing right now. However, I did make yarn purchases in February, so it was not a successful no-buy month for me. I did a pre-order from Treehouse Knits from her Outlander collection. I didn't even try and resist it because Outlander, I love, 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 and the last season is coming out next month. So I was like, you know what? This is meant to be. I'm doing it. I just got 3 skeins for a shawl and a half skein for a sock. So I'm trying my best to keep future hand-dyed purchases to just accessory quantities because there are a lot of commercial yarns that I want to use, and I figured that's better geared towards like full garments. So I'm really happy with the restraint that I showed. But also I did make a purchase from Amy Sure. She launched a new summer yarn, and I'm all about the summer yarns here. So I purchased quite a bit because I wanted to get free shipping. So those will be arriving in a couple days actually. So I'll have those to show at the next one. But something else did come in. I have it stored in this, like, my old flock tote from last year. And it is my e-spinner. So I finally attempted to spin. And y'all, the learning curve is real. So let me try and show you what I have here. I ended up going with the Dove e-spinner from Daedalus Spinning Wheels. It's like a beginner, it's geared towards beginners. It cost me $400. So this was a combination of a little channel money, which this channel does not generate much. So there's that. Christmas money, and then a little bit that I put in as well. So overall, as far as wheels go, because they are crazy expensive, I think this was still a very good intro. I was originally going to go for the Dreaming Robots U6.1, but it was out of stock, and I don't think they were going to restock until like July or June or something like that. And they dropped this one at the right time. So I would think this was meant to be. I'm still, for as much research as I did beforehand, I was like, I know what to do. I got this. As soon as I started putting this thing together, I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing. Like, all the info just left my brain. It's like, this is, what is this? But I'm slowly figuring it out. I am dedicating at least 20 to 30 minutes every Saturday. I'm not at the proficiency point to where I can just whip this out whenever and do a bit of spinning. I really need to focus and get in the zone, and I can't do that during the week because it's just, during the week my knitting is like very stop and go. So my first weekend I got this loopy situation. This fiber is Wool of the Andes from Knit Picks. It's roving. So I think my main issue right now is that I have to readjust. I'm figuring out the right tension for my tension band so that my uptake, you know, how quickly it takes in the fiber, is the right speed. Because I'm struggling with either the uptake being so slow that it over twists the yarn, or being so fast to where it doesn't twist anything and it's constantly like ripping because it's just going so fast. So I'm working on figuring out that balance. At the very least, I will say all of the research that I did beforehand has been helpful, and it's easier for me to recognize what's going wrong. So this fiber has a really long staple length, so I need to keep my hands a little bit more spread apart from each other, so that way it goes smoothly. So that's something that I wouldn't have known. But this is what I did my first Saturday, and the issue was that once it broke again, I could not find the end of it. So I can't find the end. It's just, I don't know. So this Saturday I decided to just try with a new bobbin, and this past Saturday was very frustrating because I couldn't get the yarn to stick to the guide yarn over here. So I was just getting really frustrated. So I'm like, okay, let's just put this away. So I'm still, you know, today's a Saturday. So later today, I'll try again another 30 minutes. I'll play around with my tension band. But yeah, the learning curve is real. This has been quite hard. I'm really glad that I have a good amount of beginner fiber because I have been wasting a lot of this trying to get this to work. But all in all, I think it's good. It's a good thing that I'm trying something new and trying to keep my brain sharp and things like that. So there's that. That is my spinning update up until now. I think I still need to watch a few more videos, and just because this is very, again, some parts are really over twisted and some are so loose that I was like, how am I supposed to knit with this? I haven't even gotten into the whole plying thing. So, I mean, I'll get there eventually. But yeah, that is my report. on spinning. The report is that it's not going as smoothly as I had hoped it would. But all in all, things are going well in the knitting world over here. So yeah, plan for the next couple weeks. I'm going to finish up my caterpillar cardigan. I'm going to finish up that scarf and then probably get another project or two on the needles because I can't resist having lots of options and variety to choose from. But yeah, I think that is all that I have to share with you guys. I will see you very soon. I hope you are enjoying your knitting time, and thank you so much for choosing to spend a little bit of your time with me. And until the next time, bye.